All right, Christianity versus world religions. This is lesson number 5 in that series. Christianity versus Jainism and Sikhism. So we have begun to discuss Eastern religions, which comprise of Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism. Those are the Eastern religions. These religions all originate from the country of India, and they share similar historical background. Today we're going to discuss the remaining 2 religions in the Eastern section, Jainism and Sikhism. So let's begin with Jainism, probably the religion we know the least about. So hopefully we'll gain some knowledge here. The founder of Jainism, Nataputta Vardhamana, I practiced all morning. Or his given name, Mahavira. Mahavira, which means hero or great man. He lived 599 to 527 BC. Remember I said a lot of these religions seem to start around the same period of time. This is one of those. He grew up wealthy. He was rich. His father was rich. His father was a Raja. Remember we said Raja and Maharaja, great men, rich men. His father was a Raja in the Kshatriya caste. Remember we said there were 5 castes or castes. The Brahmins were at the top, the priestly caste, and the Kshatriya caste was second. Well, he belonged to that second caste there. After his father and mother died, he gave his goods away to the poor, and he joined the Hindu monks, and he made vows and decided to live as a Hindu monk. And of course, he joined a strict sect of the Hindu monks. No maintenance of the physical body at all. They don't go see doctors. And they suffer all calamities visited upon them by man or divine power without complaint. So he stayed with the monks for about a month, and then he decided to reach moksha. Remember I talked about moksha? Moksha is merging with the divine, merging with Brahma, and that is the ultimate in Hinduism. So he decided to cut it short and reach moksha using 2 main ideas. The first is a person can reach moksha faster by practicing severe asceticism, meaning harsh treatment of the body. So that's one way of reaching moksha faster. And then the second way, in order to maintain purity and avoid bad karma, remember bad karma slows you down on your way to moksha. So in order to avoid bad karma, that evil influence, he said, one must not injure any living thing at all. Not a cow, not a flea, not an ant. You must not injure or kill any living thing, a principle called ahimsa. So he pursued these 2 ideas tenaciously by not spending more than 1 night in a small village, no more than 5 nights in a large town, in order that he might not become attached to anyone or anything. This is how he denied his flesh. He didn't want to stay anywhere long enough where he found a friend or a sympathetic ear. He wanted to know no one. He wanted to have no connections, no human comfort. He also practiced extreme care not to kill any living thing. So for example, he strained all of his water before drinking it. He swept his pathway as he went along to make sure that he would not step on any insects or anything in his way. He ate only leftovers. He ate I couldn't join this religion, you know what I'm saying? Just for that one thing alone right there. My wife is smiling back there. He ate only leftovers. In other words, things that were already killed by somebody else. So that way he didn't kill anything. So he ate only leftovers. He allowed insects to crawl over him if they happened to go on him. He did not bathe. He wore no clothing. He spoke to no one. He meditated all the time. And he claims to have reached moksha in the 13th year of this lifestyle, or as some call it, nirvana. You know, when you hear nirvana, they reach nirvana, moksha, nirvana, same thing. He continued to live after reaching moksha, something different than what was happening in the Hindu religion. You reach moksha, you're already dead. You know? I mean, reaching moksha is the ultimate. You've merged with Brahma. But no, he reached moksha, he was still alive. The origins, after reaching moksha, he gathered and he organized disciples. So Mahavira died from self-starvation, willfully cutting himself free from this world in order to enjoy moksha, which is the non-participation of this world. And so there was a movement that grew largely as a reaction, and this is what's important. If this was a class where you had an exam, here's the important part. The movement that he began and grew was a reaction against the Brahmin caste, okay? It was called Jainism because the word Jain means those who conquer the flesh, which is what the founder is said to have done. Jaina is the deified personification of the founder, and he joined the gods like other Hindu deities. And so two main branches of this religion, this Jain religion, Jainism. One, the white clad. Those are the ones who wear clothing and they only wear one white garment. And the sky clad, those are the ones who are naked like the founder. The devotees of this religion mainly follow individual teachers. There's no like temples or things like that. They follow individual teachers. Their idea of deity, their concept of deity, they rejected the concept of a supreme being. In other words, they rejected the idea of Brahma. And they rejected the idea of Brahma because the idea of Brahma is what gave rise to the caste, the caste, the Brahmins, the guys who were in charge, the priests. They believe that man is the highest form of life and all things living and inanimate are eternal. They believe in the eternity of matter. Their concept of mankind, man is part of creation which is eternal. It has always been there. There's no creator. Woman is man's greatest temptation and cannot reach moksha until she is reincarnated as a man. Can you wonder why this religion did not take off here in the United States? Man's purpose is to release himself from the physical world and reach moksha. So you see, it's very similar to Hinduism. Okay, very similar to Hinduism. Their idea of salvation, well, moksha or nirvana is different in Jainism than it is in Hinduism, in that in Jainism, one is conscious of one's bliss and detachment, wherein for Hindus, it is total oblivion, and thereby lies its appeal to Hindus. In other words, you had Hinduism. The best that could happen, moksha, nirvana, the best that could happen is all of a sudden you no longer exist. You're absorbed into Brahma. You don't feel anything, you don't know anything, you're not aware of anything, you disappear. So Jainism comes along and says, well, you do go to moksha or nirvana, but the good news is the bliss and the joy and the happiness of being merged with Brahma, you actually feel it. You actually are aware of it. So this was, I hate to use this term, but what a selling point. What an advantage it had over the Hindu religion. Not an easy religion. To become a Jain, one had to take 2 sets of vows, one or the other. There were the vows for the monks, and so the monks, they renounced injury and killing to all life. They renounced uncontrolled speech. They renounced possessions. They only took what was given to them as beggars. They renounced all forms of sex. They renounced all forms of personal attachment. That's for the monks. The regular followers, they had a lot more rules. They were committed not to kill, not to lie, not to steal, not to be impure, not to be greedy, not to travel, to limit their use of things, to limit the immorality in their life. They committed to meditation on a regular basis, regular self-denial. They would spend one day as a monk on a regular basis just to kind of stay in practice. And they would give alms to the monks. They rejected knowledge as transient and ineffective as a way to reach moksha. In other words, the only way you can reach moksha for Jainism was through self-denial, not through knowledge. Here we go. Their cultists, no services or anything like that, no worship, no prayers. There is a memorial service and it is only conducted in honor of the founder of the religion. But there's no regular service each week, no. The Mathura, or the Memorial Mound, is the oldest building in India actually. And there is a Jain temple, but just one in Calcutta. Let's see, their scriptures, interesting, their scriptures. They have writings by different leaders that include the vows and the comments on the vows that they take. A lot of disputes over the authenticity of their followers. The agamas are the precepts, and the prakrit is a special language. It's a special vernacular used to write the agamas. Many do not know this language, so the writings are not available to most Jains. The commentaries about the agamas are written in a special language called Sanskrit. When you hear, oh, Sanskrit, an ancient language, well, they're connected with the Jain religion. I want to read to you just a small portion of one of their scriptures. It says here, the Ayaranya Sutra, sometimes called the Samayika, is the first book of the Jain canon. It deals with problems of conduct. So let me just read a paragraph about that, one of the verses. It says, a wise man should remove any aversion to control. He will be liberated in the proper time. Some, following wrong instructions, turn away from control. They are dull, they're wrapped in delusion. While they imitate the life of monks, saying, we shall be free from attachment, they enjoy the pleasures that offer themselves. Through wrong instructions, the would-be sages trouble themselves for pleasure. Thus they sink deeper and deeper in delusion and cannot get to this nor to the opposite shore. Those who are freed from attachment to the world and its pleasures reach the opposite shore. Subduing desire by desirelessness, he does not enjoy the pleasures that offer themselves. Desirelessness, giving up the world and ceasing to act, he knows, he sees, and has no wishes because of his discernment. He is called houseless. So the whole point of this religion to reach heaven, moksha, is to deny yourself in the most severe way. The geography, well, since Mahavira was from a high caste, many of his followers are from the higher classes, which mean they're city dwellers, they're merchants, leaders, bankers who control the commerce in the south. About 3 million of these individuals live in the Bombay area, or it's called Mumbai now. A very exclusive, closed religion, non-evangelistic. Nobody's out there to try to convert you to Jainism. It is something that goes from family to family. All right, so that's Jainism, which I find the most unusual and difficult religion. And basically, what is it? Well, it's salvation by law, except it's not a law that God has given. It's a law that the founder of this religion has made about how you should act in the most severe way to treat your body. And if you follow that law successfully, then you'll get to moksha. And as I've said to you many times before, Christianity is the only religion where salvation is based on faith and not law. Every other religion, Islam, Jainism, Hinduism, Buddhism, they all follow the principle of salvation by some form of law or rule keeping. Okay, Sikhism, our last one we're going to look at tonight. Sikhism, this is the most militaristic of all religions. It was begun as an attempt to harmonize Islam and Hinduism because of the geography. These people here were stuck between the Hindus on one side and Islam on the other. So they formed a religion that kind of took from each. It took the monotheism from Islam, and it took the idea of karma from Hinduism, and it kind of made a new religion. Okay? It was the term Sikh, by the way, that's how you pronounce this, Sikhism. The term Sikh simply means disciple, disciple. The founder, Nanak, 1469 to 1558 AD, he was a Hindu. He was a Hindu of the Kshatriya caste, born near what is today Pakistan, which used to be North India. He was influenced by earlier writer called Kabir, who wrote about both the Muslim and the Hindu religions. And so Nanak lived in a place where Hindu and Muslim peoples were settled side by side, and this influenced his thinking. He is said to have had a vision. Doesn't that sound familiar? He had a vision from God declaring that there was no Hindu or Muslim, only those who loved God, the true one, and who loved one another. Wait a minute. That sort of sounds familiar, doesn't it? As far as a religious principle, you think in the 14th century, somebody else had come along with that idea before, that to love God and to love your neighbor is the highest level. I digress here, but anyways. Nanak lived, I said that, the vision from God, that's it. He had a vision for God declaring that there was no Hindu, no Muslim, only those who love God, the true one. By the way, the term for God was the true one. He appointed a successor at his death, and that successor was referred to as, and Hal back there will appreciate this, was referred to as a guru. And so he appointed a successor or a guru at his death, and 9 successive gurus were the head of the Sikh religion all the way into modern times. The origins, these are names here and dates when they ruled. Their history can be traced through the life of these successive gurus. The religion developed in northwest India, which is now Pakistan. I remember reading about the rise of Pakistan. And so Angad, who lived from 1539 to 1552, he developed the alphabet and he formed the Sikh scriptures. Each guru added something to the religion. Armadas, 1552 to 1574, he was a social reformer and he fought for, get this, equal rights between men and women. You see the selling point here if you're a Hindu or a Muslim? If you're a Hindu, a woman, the only way you can get to moksha is if you are eventually you become a man. You're reincarnated as a man. If you're a Muslim woman, you're only 2/3. You are only worth 2/3 of what a man is worth in God's eyes. So this new religion comes along and says, hey, how about this? How about men and women are equal in God's eyes? How about loving God and loving your neighbor is going to be the basis of our religion? Well, I don't know about you, but that sounds awfully good to me. Never mind if I'm a woman or a man, that just sounds awfully good to me. Arjan, 1581 to 1606, believed that people needed to be militaristic in order to survive. Hargobind, 1606 to 1645, he formed a guerrilla army to protect Sikhs from Muslims. Because Muslims, their method of evangelism is you convert or we kill you. So you have a moment to think about that. And so the Sikhs wanted to protect themselves. And they were pacifistic, I can't say it. They were pacifists. And so therefore there was a group within their religion that began to be militaristic for the purpose of protecting themselves. They didn't overrun any other country. They didn't try to start a war. It was strictly for defense purposes. Govind Singh, Govind Singh, from 1675 to 1708, he was the principal leader that molded modern Sikhism, and he was the last guru. He outlawed the caste system altogether. He organized villages into military units. He required all devotees to attach the term Singh to their name. The term Singh means lion. He moved to have their area become independent, and ultimately it was, but not for the Sikhs. It became independent for Pakistan in 1947. He opened the religion to men of all castes in order to form a new culture. And this was done through what was called the baptism of the sword. And so men and women were equal. And this became a pretty attractive proposition to people who were living in the caste system or people who were under the thumb of the Islamic leaders of the time. So he took 5 disciples and he made them drink a special sweet mixture of nectar and water, and he mixed it with a sword, and then he sprinkled each man 5 times on his hair and on his eyes. Wait a minute. Sprinkling water on new disciples. A kind of a baptism ritual. Wonder what religion that comes from. So again, you study these things and please realize we're only just touching just the bare minimum to get an idea here. But if you really dig into all these religions, it's amazing how much they borrow from one another and how much of it is borrowed, the good parts, is borrowed from Christianity. And so these men who added the term Singh, the more militaristic Sikhs, they were charged to wear the 5 Ks, throughout their lifetimes as a symbol of their religion and their role in their religion. So the 5 Ks, the kesh, the hair, the turban. You ever see Sikhs? They're always wearing a turban, that's the kesh. The kanja, the hair, my mistake. The hair is not cut. Their hair is long. They let their beards grow. That's the kesh. The kanja is the turban that they wear. I've seen a person put that turban on. It's quite an elaborate thing. When your hair goes down to here and you've got to wrap this turban around your head there, it's quite a thing to see. The kacha, which are the shorts, they wore like khaki, knee-length shorts. The kara, the bracelet, like a copper bracelet that they all wore, and the kirpan, which was the sword. At the beginning it was like a sword. Now it's more like a knife, a dagger if you wish. But all the Sikhs that attach the term Sinj to their name, they wear the 5 Ks. Now, as I say, not all Sikhs became Sinj. Some remained pacifists, but those who did became very skilled in the military arts. And so this particular guru left instructions that after his death there were to be no other gurus, but that the followers were to use their holy book as their guide, which they do until this day. Wait a minute, just use their holy book as their guide? Wonder where they got that idea. All right, the deity, I need to move here. Concept of deity, they were monotheists. There's only one God. The name of God is truth. They rejected the concept of the Hindus. They adopted the sovereign God concept, actually not necessarily of Christianity, but of Islam. There's only one God. Their idea of mankind, they believe in the universal brotherhood of all men. They believe that man was created by God. They accepted the idea of moksha and karma, except moksha was with God, not Brahma. They put great value upon the individual. In other words, they were very socially aware for their time and for their period. Their concept of salvation, repeating the name of God is worth more than all the rituals in the world. And so what they would repeat is, there is one God and truth is His name. The love of God and the love for man is the way to moksha. Wow, that was revolutionary in that time. For both Hindu and Islam, that only loving God and man is the way to moksha was completely different than what the Hindus taught, what the Jains taught, what the Muslims taught. The difference between Hindus is that through avoiding bad karma by doing good, one reaches moksha. But union with God is perceived and conscious in Sikhism, whereas in Hinduism it is not. They're cultists. They rejected ritualism. Their only ceremony is the baptism of the sword. That's the only ceremony they have. There's probably somebody complaining about that, but anyways. The Golden Temple, there's a picture of it right there. The Golden Temple at Amritsar, I can't pronounce that word. Amritsar, that's it, Amritsar, houses the Holy Granth, which is the writings of Nanak. The original writings are kept in that place. The scriptures themselves, let's see, scriptures themselves, there we go. The Granth, which is called the book, 1604. The original Granth was composed 1604 by the 5th guru from material supposed to have come from Nanak and other teachers. So you had one of the gurus go back and collate and put together and organize the written material of the original founder and other teachers and make one book out of it. Again, doesn't that sound familiar? In the 1700s, another book was compiled by the 10th guru, which came to have the same authority as the Adi Granth. This later work was also a compilation of many authors. These are written in different languages, and very few have been able to read the complete works because of this. Only a few have been translated into English. It's a key document. It's repeated by Orthodox Sikhs in the morning, and they must memorize what parts are written by Nanak. And I have a copy, just so happen to have a copy here of an English translation. It says the Sikh scriptures are known as Granth, meaning the book. The original Granth, the Adi Granth, was compiled about 1604 by the 5th Guru, or a religious teacher. And here is a sample, just a short sample. The heading is Repeat His Name. The True One, remember we said God's name for the Sikhs, the True One. It says, the True One was in the beginning. The True One was in the primal age. The True One is now also. O Nanak, the True One also shall be. By thinking I cannot obtain conception of Him, even though I think hundreds of thousands of times. Even though I be silent and keep my attention firmly fixed on Him, I cannot perceive silence. The hunger of the hungry for God subsideth not, though they obtain the load of the worlds. If man should have thousands and hundreds of thousands of devices, even one would not assist him in obtaining God. So the idea is you cannot know God or have God through human effort. The geography, they're in the Punjab region, the northwest region of India. They're not independent politically, but they do have some autonomy. Most of them live there. Many have migrated to the west, many especially to England. And then one last thing here, miscellaneous information. Their reaction to the Muslim threat gave rise to this militaristic faction of the Sinj, or the Lions. These became great soldiers and especially bodyguards in the British Army, and later on personal security people for very wealthy people and politicians and so on and so forth. They used their military abilities to preserve themselves and not to conquer others. They're very socially aware. They produce great improvement, and they especially improve the position of the outcasts and of women in Indian society. All right, so there's some information about two Eastern religions, Jainism and Sikhism. All right, next week is going to be Wednesday night. It's the Wednesday before Christmas, and as is our tradition here, we will have a devotional time next Wednesday that we will plan, and everybody usually enjoys the pre-Christmas Devo that we have here on Wednesday night. And then the following Wednesday, the last Wednesday in the year, I will come back and torture you some more. But this time you really have to put your boots on, because we're going to do Taoism, Confucianism, Shinto, and Buddhism. We're going to do them all in one shot in the last lesson, and then the series with all its painful repercussions will belong to you. And that's it for now. Thank you for your attention.